So for our last story, I wanted to do something a little different because normally we end on a kind of a sour note. And so this time I found a quite interesting blog post about, I guess, what I'll call detection engineering. And it's how basically you can create a canary to proactively identify that there may be somebody, some actor doing things inside your network. And so this story here is from the Black Hills security blog. Black Hills, by the way, is a pretty interesting company. Um, one of the I think it was a founder wrote a book that's kind of along these lines a couple of years ago, and it had some interesting ideas. So this to me seemed like it was in the spirit of that. I'll see if I can find the title of the book and stick it in the show notes. Probably kind of old in the long in the tooth by now. I think it was maybe 10 years ago. But the deal here is, um, so this blog post walks you through creating a canary account in an Active Directory environment, and it's not just like a um, the normal blog post. It actually teaches you how to stand up a lab environment in Azure using a set of scripts that you can download and create this environment. And it walks you through kind of front to back how to configure this account to detect Active Directory enumeration, to detect Kerberoasting and service principal attacks, and then to detect password spray attacks. And you do that all by enabling certain attributes on just even one Active Directory account, and then configuring your monitoring to look for the events, certain event types associated with that account, because that account would be dedicated to the purpose of being this canary. You really shouldn't expect to see those certain event types happening with that particular account. And when it does happen, when and if it does happen, that would be a high fidelity alert that should cause you to go and perform some investigation. And I've seen this work quite effectively in the past. But one of the challenges, because we did this in the past, one of the challenges you run into in larger environments is you can get the alert, but Microsoft very helpfully doesn't actually tell you where the event originated from. And so the alert will tell you that you need to go launch an investigation, but then you have to go through a pretty arduous process of kind of tracking back where the thing originated from, and that can be a little, excuse me, that can be a little challenging to do. Anyway, I thought this was a good way to end the podcast here.
Yeah, it was really cool, and I appreciate you throwing it on the end here as a more positive, like, cool technique. And I think it also teaches you a lot about how AD works and the attacks against AD. And this is a good exercise to test some red teaming activities or purple teaming activities too. So it's a lot of good stuff, and it's well worth doing. Now, obviously, not everybody's in Azure, not everybody has this particular risk profile, but there's some neat stuff here, and I appreciate you bringing it up and adding it onto the show.
Yeah, I'd like to find. I haven't seen one, but I can imagine that we could do something similar with, let's say, Unix accounts or Linux accounts. It'll be a little bit, obviously, a little bit different because by default Linux IDs aren't federated, and so each one tends to be its own island, and so you'd have to configure that canary on all the systems that you care about in order to have a full view. But the concept of being able to detect malicious activity or suspected malicious activity on your network, I think, is quite important. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying a couple of minutes ago about what is your response in the context of your perimeter controls failing. Like, what is the next thing that they do? And this, by the way, is one of those next things. Once an adversary gets in, many companies or many organizations of any kind are Microsoft shops to some level. And so they will go through a process of enumeration and just scanning, looking for what their next step is going to be. And that, as a defender, is your opportunity to detect that they're there, because they often have to do something. Like they don't usually go from hacking your firewall to just completely owning your environment. There's some other steps in there. So this is a good opportunity, and perhaps a good set of steps that you may be also applicable in other types of environments, even if it's not directly applicable, for you to think about how to implement in your own environment.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I like it. There might be some other prerequisites here of certain types of logs being available in certain tiers of service and such, just
Mm-hmm.
as a qualifier, caveat, or disclaimer, as it were.
For sure, for sure, but worthwhile. So I was hoping to find something that actually helped, and not just throw another pile or another problem on your pile. So hopefully this does help a little bit. But that is the show for today. We made it.
Nice.